Now. Welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I am Nerder Doug, and tonight I am imbibing D&D ideas with this nerd.
Nerdarchus Steve. How are you doing this fine evening, sir?
It's also lovely. Yeah, it's a great start to the week as always. And to cap it off, to hang out with my fellow favorite nerds and talk to other nerds about nerdy stuff. Uh, pretty good start to any week.
I got to channel my Nerdarchus Ted for you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like he's on the call with us.
Yeah, he's always, well, we're in his basement.
We are kind of in his basement. Just don't tell.
Mhm.
The call is
So,
coming from inside the house.
yeah, so tonight, in case you didn't look at the title or get it from my clever intro, we are talking about potions, which also includes tinctures, tonics, and all other manner of thesaurus
Yeah.
synonyms for magical liquids, brews,
Well,
and
I feel like
enchanted herbs.
tinctures and tonics are kind of specific.
They're like medicinal.
Yeah, like they're both medicinal, but in different ways.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
And and honestly, like I feel like your charlatan is probably going to have more tinctures and tonics to sell than potions.
Oh yeah, dude, Matt, one of my favorite characters ever. That I just was so pleased with it. Like it's the Charlotte starting thing, and one of them was like
Yeah.
an option was like D10 or 10 vials of colored water, like different colored water, and I sold them as energy drinks because I was like, can they be sugar water? And I was like, well, I'm not really lying. It would give you energy and stuff like that. So I sold some to like this like wilderness guide at a tavern once and just kept track of them and had like a little side business. It was great.
What was the character class?
I've played that character a bunch of times. That's Ms. Magdu. That time he was a wizard. He
Okay.
was an enchantment wizard who was just super lazy. He was a drow. He didn't want to adventure during the day and stuff.
Well, I mean, you're a drow. Why would you?
Mm-hmm. And he was totally upfront with his allies too. He's just like, if you want to go, travel to the next town of the day, like I'm probably not going to be very helpful.
He's using his web spell to make a hammock.
No, yeah, there was like a overturned cart or something inside. Like they were investigating all around. And I was like, I'm gonna take a break in the shade, and I used ritual to cast unseen servant and give myself a foot rub and stuff while they were.
He's
Uh,
fanning you.
yeah, I was like, I
Yeah, I
told you.
mean that's a good use of unseen servant for sure. The
Yeah.
character needs instills magical aura as well.
Ooh, what is that? I forget. What does that do? That's like one of those, unusual spells that you're like, I kind of know what it does. It makes things have a magical aura, so you can
Yeah, it
like.
gives things a magical aura. I think, or maybe can it hide one too? I don't.
Yes, yes.
I know it definitely can give a magical aura.
Yeah, that would have
Uh,
been totally up if I don't play that character a whole lot, but I absolutely would have picked that if I would have been like, what can I do? Oh, yep, that.
when it comes to like magic potions, since like the AD&D, my favorite table has been in the DMG in
Mm,
5e. It's in chapter 7, and the potion miscability table.
yep,
I feel
that's on
like
my bullet points.
yeah. Well, I actually had that work. Like the first time a DM made me roll on that table, I rolled the 00.
Oh yeah, what is that?
Yeah.
Like they both take effect for like permanently or something like
Nah,
that?
nah. Only one works, but the effects are permanent.
Oh, okay.
So like I got so it was a healing. One of them was a healing potion, and the DM made that permanent. So like
Like
3 times a
super strength.
day, it allowed me to cast like a healing on
Oh
myself.
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I
I
have
thought
a
so.
yeah, I have a potion miscability table tail as well. So the first 5e session I DM'd actually. I played a bunch in Adventures League and stuff like that when I was in Texas. But I got some friends together, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, my friend from Japan is here, this weekend visiting family and stuff." And I was hanging out with him tonight. Can he play? And he'd never played before. He was from the U.S., but he was lived there for his job.
Uh,
And like that session just set the tone for my whole like just gaming, changed how I DM and look at games. Because this guy was just, well, he was a new player, and he was just like, I want to do this and that, and like all this crazy stuff. And at one part, they were like in some guy's lab, his alchemy lab, and there was like a row of potions. He's like, I'm just gonna grab whatever two and just chug them both. And like, and this was back when I used to really plan, and I was just a mere Nerdarchy fan, and like taking notes in your videos, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try that and everything. So, I was like, I'm gonna use that potion Miscability Tail, and honestly, I don't remember what results he got, but just the whole scenario and the way that guy played was so wild, and that was just stood out to me because he got some crazy result. I think they both worked, and he was just like, oh, all right, and he just kept like steamrolling through everything. It was just wild.
Well,
And I
you
was
know
like,
what? Things
oh,
like that
and
really
it was
shape
funny because I had all those notes and prep, and I was like, I just went off the rails like immediately. So,
things like that can really shape your like your gaming experience, right?
mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah, sure
just
did.
getting that one good roll where both potions take effect because like your impression of the game is gonna be a lot different if you get the 01 and you explode for force with 6 die 10 force damage, and especially if you're like just starting out
I,
and
I think
you're
I
low
didn't even
level.
have any specific potions. It was just like his lab, but it was just like, oh, there's that table. So I just rolled like two on the list of potions to see which two they would be. Because I was like, I didn't have any in mind, and he broke all the other ones. So I was like, sweet, I don't even have to like have like all this treasure that they got that they shouldn't have. It's just like, well, he just was like chugged it and just was like, just smashed the shelves and all the bottles. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that is definitely fun.
hmm So the DMG defines potions to your point earlier about like tinctures and all that is magical liquids, brews of enchanted herbs, which I guess potions of healing are, water from magical springs, and special oils basically that you can like apply to things.
Do you in your games do you let players just like sip them to test them?
No, heck no, you crazy? That's like
I think it's right in the DMG though. That's one of the ways.
sorry.
Not that that's right or wrong. I mean,
hmm
it doesn't matter.
To that point, to that end, I do like to describe them, and I think it's cool how most of the potions, if not all of them, like that's a heavy emphasis in the description is like what it looks like and sounds like and all that sort of thing. I think that's cool. I think that's a fun part of the game, and including the parts when people are like, ah, screw it, I'll just chug it, why not, and see what happens. That's fun too. I don't consider it like a gotcha thing. It's just like, well, that seems realistic. I mean, if you knew there was like all manner of potions and things in the world, right? That could be like legendary things. Would you just be
Yeah,
like, I'll just take a sip? You'd be like, no, I want to know what it is. Could
I
like could
need to
like disintegrate your
experience this.
soul or something like that.
We did so. We created an intelligent potion in one
Mm-hmm.
of our mage forges. I just looked it up. It was like 6 years ago,
Yeah, I think
and
it came out of a website post by Mike Gould.
yeah, I
Is it the
don't.
one that like lives in your stomach?
No, I think it lives in the container, or maybe the
Oh,
container itself is magical. Dude, we did that video 6 years ago. I just remember that we made it and it was intelligent.
mm-hmm.
And it was just like, I think it was just one of those things like, how wacky can we be? I'm going to just drop that in the chat if
Sure.
anyone wants to check it out. It's like, how wacky can we make this thing? And we're like, I don't know. Let's do an intelligent item. And what do you want to make it? And we're like, a potion.
Is it a video?
It is a video.
Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with that.
I
Maybe
bet
that's
you
what.
watched it. You've watched them all.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's what inspired that post that which I used in Ingest Quest, the original thing. Anthony's character, Augustus Gloop, had a potion that was like a familiar sort of. Not, no, it was like a sentient potion, and it lived in his
Yeah.
stomach, and he could like, could, like summon it up to like it could crawl around outside of him and do things, or it could
So
like
he had to barf
bestow
it
its
up every time. That's kind of gross.
yeah, or he had to like, or he could like it could do things that way, or he could just use the effect of it being in him.
Okay.
And I think he always did that. I don't remember him ever actually doing the regurgitating of
That is strange.
it.
Did,
Well, you're familiar with that game and you're playing in one now, so that shouldn't
yeah,
surprise you too
that's
much.
true.
And and it's funny today when I was thinking about potions, in lieu of this chat and thinking about that story I just told, I was like, I guess that was pretty impactful because that was just a wild, crazy session where I thought I had like everything planned out, and that was when I'm really glad for that because it really like drove home that lesson to me. Like, look, you can think of a million things players might do, and they'll do something else like every time and just take you by surprise. So
There's no way you can possibly plan for every contingency of what your players are going
yeah,
to do.
I mean, imagine that. To me, it was just like, well, it was some sage like guy's lab that they were checking out because he had been missing. It's like, how would I thought like maybe somebody will just want to chug the potions and then smash everything in the lab. Like that would never even have occurred to me in a million years, I don't think. Like, why would they do that?
Yeah. Oh man, talking about potions and kind of looking at the potions.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me think of when we did the strength video, like the how
Oh
much you
yeah,
can
that's
lift
one of my
video.
favorite videos in the post. It's so much
And
fun.
I don't know if we touched on the potion of giant size. I mean, it's a legendary item, but I mean, becoming huge for.
Wow, really? It's only one of two. What's the other legendary one?
I don't know what the other one is,
Oh,
but I got this
anyways,
one open right now. You
sure.
become huge for 24 hours, but only if
Wow.
you're medium or smaller. And also, your strength becomes a 25. Is it if it isn't already higher?
Jeez.
But
Oh yeah, I think you touched on that video because it was like we just listed like other ways, but the build was more like how you can control what you
yeah,
do.
yeah.
But yeah, that would be freaking awesome, man.
But that means if you were to drink that and then cast enlarge,
Oh
uh,
yeah, you could bypass
you can
out of
get
those
Garchwin.
steps of that character build.
Yeah, yeah, you could get there in 2 steps instead of
Yeah,
however many we came up with.
yeah, and it was like, don't be sure not to use that rune first because then it won't work. Because then it'd just be like, or I could just be like, cast enlarge and boom, you're gargantuan.
I think there's only. Oh, that's why it varies. I was like, I'm looking for that second potion of legendary. I'm like, I don't see anything, but it's
What is it?
giant strength
Oh,
because
wow.
it
So everything about giants is legendary, huh? Except
it
their
is
stat blocks.
except for their stat box. I don't
Which I don't even
know.
think there is any legendary giants.
Storm giants and cloud giants aren't exactly chumps.
Are they legendary? I mean, are they actually like legendary creatures?
No, no, no. Like as far as getting resistant, no. There might,
Ah,
yeah, there might be in some of the adventures,
yeah,
maybe
like
unique
Storm King, yeah.
characters.
Sky King's Thunder probably be
Probably
most
Sky
likely. Yeah.
King's Thunder, definitely
So
Sky King's
this isn't
Thunder.
really a question, but it's a point worth mentioning from Viking Beer in 1970. Recent discussions, I don't know, those have been going on the whole time, I think, have been
Yeah.
about availability of magic items in shops or shops themselves. In their opinion, magic items like weapons very rare outside of commission build, and potions are rare. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like the idea of magic items being like special things, and in my games, they're for potions specifically. I've mentioned Snylor, the sort of like goth dude, occultist that NPC that I use a lot. It was one of those things like, if you bring him these kind of things, he can make like mind control potions of like that creature and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, in the sense of like they don't just stack potions, but it's like they know how to make them. And so if you do things, and that's when you start getting like player motivation things, even with the potion of giant strength, like if your whole gimmick of your character concept is like that biggest strongest character, and you just know like there's a legendary potion out there that just makes me a giant for a day, that could totally be a quest, and it being legendary could last a whole long time, and that kind of stuff's like super easy to weave in to like a published adventure or homebrew too, of just like finding the recipe for it, and then obviously getting the ingredients for it would be enormously difficult, but it could just be like in the horde of something you fight like part of the main quest or whatever. Super easy to
Yeah,
do that.
it really depends on like what your methodology is for magic items in your games as far as like creation. Cause like in like third edition it was very formulaic and it's like gold plus XP equals magic item. But
Mm-hmm.
like in second edition, like you might need to like harvest the sadness of a unicorn in order to make that, whatever it is you're making. And then
Well,
like your GM will tell you that, right? And then you're like, how, I don't. Where do you get that from? Where can I buy that at?
I think that's kind of stuff's awesome because it's like there is nowhere
Yeah.
to buy. You have to go. You have to do it. Well, to that end, I think 5e, like in so many ways, sort of blends those two things together in the sense of like I don't know why people always get upset about this, but there is totally crafting rules in the DMG that do
Yeah.
have that codification. Like it takes X amount of days and X amount of gold and whatever. But it also has in there like and your DM, and as DM, you might add other things in there, like you just said, like finding weird stuff or whatever. So it's like
I just
I think
like
that's sort of
vaguely.
like a good bridge for the characters because it's like, well, here's what you have to do technically, and in the doing of that, I'm going to give you other cool stuff that you can do that you can
I
make up
vaguely
together.
remember like the AD&D example for like crafting magic items, and it was like he like gave the very specific like or not very specific, but these
Yeah,
vague things that you need, and then it was like, well, towards the end of the process, perhaps you're running out of money, and you interpret this particular thing as, if I get maybe the local paladin to lay on hands on my sword, like that'll give me the divine spark it needs.
you see, that's cool that it had that kind of stuff because those are
Yeah.
sort of like the same thing that we're talking about of just like, yeah, there's known things of, magical research and blah, 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 it costs this much. But then there's the supernatural part. I mean, you're making a magic item. It
Yeah.
should be more special than just like, well, I just, paid gold and spent time and boom, it's done. I
Well,
mean,
I feel like
well, you
the
can totally do that if your group's like that. And like Adventurers League is like that. You get actual downtime like on your official character sheet.
I feel
Find
like
that.
I feel like the really cool part is that not when you do everything right and everything is successful, but when you like take some shortcut and you're like, well, I'm out of gold, so like maybe this substitute will work, right? And then as the DM, you could be like, oh, this is the perfect opportunity to twist something a little bit because you didn't quite get the ingredients right, but you're close,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe it makes a lesser version. Maybe it makes the version of what you wanted, but there's a drawback.
Yeah.
Or you straight up botch and make a cursed item.
Yeah. And like the best sorts of things. I mean, there's little avenues. Like I'm always pleased because me, I love looking at like what's actually in like the core three books and comparing it to like what people often gripe about and stuff. So like I think that's totally a relatable niche within like the crunchy rules, right? Like no matter how broad you use the like the gold and time and all that stuff, right? At some point you just might run out of money and it's like I need like 5,000 gold and it's like, well, here's what's available for adventures. So I mean that's why wizards become adventures because it's like I don't even care about the adventure. I care about making that magic item. And I just got to
Wizarding,
do that to pay the bills.
wizarding ain't cheap.
Yeah.
Actually,
But for
like,
anybody, like that same, person that might want to, like a fighter that wants a potion of giant strength, it's like their life goal. It's like that could take them far and wide across the world, which also ain't cheap. It's like booking passage on ships and like a guide to climb a mountain to get like like a storm giant's toenail clipping or whatever you need.
heck, even without the idea of making magic items, wizarding is the most expensive class. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like the rest of the party is literally swimming in gold, and the wizard is like scraping by in order to come up with the inks and papers and stuff that he needs to inscribe new spells into his spell book.
Yeah, played so fantastically by Liam O'Brien. I thought he leaned into that big time. I was needing paper, and he was always broke and everything. But also pays off because he was really powerful and he had a lot of spells in his spellbook. After we were finishing up our Tasha's stuff, so I like was really reading. I did that, wrote about the Order of Scribes, and just not really related to potions, but man, like that seems like the most wizardy wizard to me.
The
Like
scriber.
yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, just your spell book, and they're all about the research and changing how spells work and manipulating magic. I really like that stuff. That's a lot. I think it's super cool. I was thinking, I was like, well, how many potions and stuff has Nerdarchy created? And the, at least four, I would say. And it seemed like not that many, but then in light of like, well, there's only 36 in the official stuff, and that's like
Yeah.
the official game. It's like not bad. They only got 9 times as many as us, and we're just like little old nerdarchy. We got our
Also,
dream essence, which is super powerful. You were actually like, ooh man, because I was like from the more wild and woolly days of nerdarchy.
the what was I gonna say? I
I don't
totally
know.
lost my train of thought.
Well, I'll describe the three other
Oh yeah, oh
potions.
no, I know what I was gonna say. The if you include poisons, we made a lot of poisons, and
Yeah, that's true.
poison
That's
shows up on the poison chart as well,
Yeah, actually,
but
we've
not
made a
all of them.
lot of poisons, probably more than 30. Because
Yeah,
there's ones in like Treasures of the Tundra. I think Frost King has some
you can
poisons.
never have too many poisons.
Potions and poisons are a lot alike in many ways, in the sense of like they're a good way to just introduce weird effects as the DM, whether for good or ill. In this case, probably good. But just like you don't have to be limited to the potions. You know, in the DMG or whatever, it could just be like, yeah, there's a magical liquid, like a magical spring, and it heals you or turns you into a giant for a day or whatever, or shrinks you or whatever.
I've definitely done that quite a few times in different
Hell
ones. Like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, you haven't have you, if you haven't have you even DM'd
true. Like, I like
drinking
the
weird
magical
stuff?
pool
Mm-hmm.
that gives you either a long rest or a short rest when you drink from the waters.
Let's see. Viking Beard guys. Does anyone have? They do. Remember the AD&D book, Aurora's Whole Realms catalog, which is basically the Forgotten Realms version of the Sears catalog. Hell yeah, that's where I found Death Cheese and integrated that in Just Quest, the first one. It's a cheese made by blind monks who milk catoblepuses for the milk and make a rich cheese out of it.
I think they.
Nub
I
Nub
mean, it's
died.
not quite the same, but I think under the 5e entry for Catoblepas, it mentions death cheese too, right? But they have hags instead of blind monks.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Boy, I bet you Ben from Puffin Forest is maybe the only player in D&D history that could say they died milking a catoblepas.
Oh no, Nub Nub died.
Yeah, he was raised dead not long after, but he was dead.
He got better.
Yep.
Oh my god, Catoblepas is kind of a nasty monster.
Yeah.
They were like one of the like first ones where Wizards of the Coast like made some really nasty effects for like if you fail by more than five.
Good. There should be terrifying creatures like that out there, man. Put you in your place once in a while. When you see the
Yeah.
gate, when you look upon that horrid visage,
Have you ever used one of those in your games? Well,
I
yeah, I
used
guess
them
you
in
did.
Suspect.
Yeah, in Just Quest. I've used them a couple times. They're just so bizarre.
Dude, and Just Quest is like an excuse to use all the monsters you want.
Yeah.
And that actually dovetails into one of my points about potions. So is making a potion, like that whole sort of quest thing, whether it's to save somebody or that you want or whatever. Because, like, if that's a quest, then the ingredients side quest don't have to be related at all. Like needing like the milk of a catoblepus and like the feather of a rock and stuff, or like a remora's spine. It's like that could take you all over. They don't have anything to do with each other. You don't have to be like, why is there, like there's no connective tissue. I mean, there would be. I'm just saying, it takes that pressure off of like, how do all these things relate? It's like they relate because they're the thing you're trying to do.
Because you need it. It's the grocery list.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but potions are great for that. Or
Mm-hmm.
like, especially because you can get very like plot hooky and metagamey in the sense that like it's not about making a specific magic potion per se, but like you're trying to cure someone or break a
Yeah.
curse or whatever. It's just all like the mechanics don't matter. It's just like an excuse to do a thing.
You had him on live chat a while back, Matt Corley, I think his name is. He's a creator, and he did Harper's Tale, which was that big. I think they used the Indiegogo for it to raise a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
money for his daughter. And the whole premise of that adventure, which I always thought was super cool, if only in the fact that like it's not like the main plot isn't kill that bad guy. It's like there's a sickness and you have to like find a cure for it and then go find all the ingredients and then you fight stuff and all that along the way. But that's a cool like motivation to like that is your quest to cure something and finding.
Yeah, it changes the dynamic of the game right
Mhm.
from the beginning too. Like, because there's always like a certain expectation in D&D, but like when it's like, oh, it's more of like a scavenger hunt to find these things to
Mhm.
cure. It's more of a seek than a destroy mission.
And I guess it's implied or implicit in it, and I would probably be explicit with the players, beforehand too. Of like, it's not like a murder hope. Like it lends itself like you should probably make characters that would be sympathetic and want to help people do this. Like if the players are like, man, I don't fucking care. It's like,
I don't even like kids.
yeah. Bad guys. That sounds cool. I made a plague doctor character, and I want to.
I want to replicate the
Yeah.
sickness, not
Yeah.
not heal it. Yeah, well, that makes me think. Like, I kind of did a cursed potion
Yeah, yeah.
in our Heaven D&D newsletter.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was like a combination of magic item slash, plot hook or kind of like mini
Mm-hmm.
adventure.
Like all the best things are is just hooks. It came up during your chat with DM Lee today. You guys, I don't think anybody said it explicitly, but it was like sort of like the next thought. I was like, was that like, instead of like always hoping, oh, I hope the players take my hooks. It's like, when you're the DM, it's like, I want to take their hooks. Like, come on, give me something to work with. That's the fun. That's the juices. It's like, I guess that's why I don't like and that Spelljammer game taught me a lot about that too, of just having like the long campaign with the big villain.
Yeah.
It's like I like to just feel like you're just living in this fantasy world. What would your characters do? Like there's something that brought them together, but it's not like some perilous danger that's pressing on them at all times.
You've inspired a Viking beard
Awesome.
to go look up death cheese.
No, cool.
Well, that's another thing too when talking about like potions and stuff like that. Which is, I mean, it's definitely come up in our games in the past where it is like a potion, or you would just can say consumables, where they're
Yeah.
foods. Like, I think fruits make good stand-ins
Oh yeah,
for,
yeah.
for potions where you like
Big
eat
time,
this
sure.
apple, this pear, these berries, whatever.
I think they even gets into that in Tasha's in like those supernatural regions and things like that of just like, like all the fruit on this one tree acts like a potion of whatever, or just things like that. Yeah, I mean, all those things fall under the umbrella, which you just
Yeah.
perfectly encapsulate years before, like when I hadn't even met you, of just putting things in front of the players. That's all you're doing. I mean, really, and it's like that it's scary to DM that way. It still is for me because it's like I don't know what they're gonna do. Like, am I gonna think of anything? But it's fun though because like our quest games like that too. Where it's like I just okay, let's roll with it. I mean, you guys, the big villain or whatever. It's like you defeated him in like episode 3, and I thought it was awesome. It was like okay, that just changed what was gonna happen. That's fine. So it's fun because you guys are like, this is what we want to do, and it's like, and you did succeeded at what you set out to do just earlier than I thought. So that's fine.
Now we can retire.
Yeah, you just
That,
wrap up the campaign early,
yeah.
which as an anxious DM, I wouldn't be against that. If you're like, yeah, let's just wrap it up. Like, okay,
So the magical fruit kind of gave me an idea.
sure, let's explore it.
I want to do Trent's, but
Okay.
inspired from Wizard of the Oz, where
Uh-huh.
they throw apples at the adventurers, except for their explosive apples.
Okay.
So now the player, but so the fun thing is, right? If the players can try and harvest the apples.
Yeah, but that would be an awesome quest for an all monk party. Wouldn't
Where
it?
they catch them.
Yeah. I mean, I love those all single class party concept videos and posts and stuff. But yeah, wouldn't that be sweet? It was just like
If they that would be kind of funny because if they roll high enough to negate the damage,
Mm-hmm.
then you might be like, as the DM, be like, oh, you caught it, it didn't explode,
Mm-hmm.
and
Maybe
now
those
you
are
have the
like
apple.
extra precious or something like that. Yeah, you could have a whole mini game or sort of out of it. It's like you catch it, you throw it back. Maybe it's a different kind. They have different kinds of apples. You want to collect them and stuff.
Is oil of impact still a thing?
I don't know. That there is oils, but what was that? You put it on blunt weapons and it made them like hit harder
It
or
made him
something.
like explode and do extra damage. Like,
So it's like
I'm thinking
nitroglycerin.
like
It's like nitroglycerin basically.
basically, like I'm thinking now like the apples are like an ingredient for making oil of impact,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
which
You know,
may
and something like
or
that.
not exist.
And as silly as that sounds, it's so easy to recontextualize it. So like imagine, your settings like a gritty fantasy war torn thing, right? But it's still fantasy, but there's mostly, like high magic and that sort of thing. Like that's not widespread.
I don't think we have oil of impact in 5e.
So like imagine, so with that as your setting, nothing silly about it at all. Maybe the army, like that is something that the war wizards have to do. Like if we can make enough oil of impact for like our shock troopers, then it'll make a big difference. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, it seemed goofy, but it's like imagine how scary it would be to go to the area where they're just like vast, rolling hills, and you can see like gargantuan treants just like lumbering here and there. It's like we got to go in there and try to get apples or fruit from these things. It's scary and cool and evocative, and it'd be really exciting, I think, whether you're a bunch of monks or just other players.
It used to
What
also
about
be
you?
one of those items that used to get abused a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with when you just like 3.5 version where it's just like, here's how you make this thing. The DM has no say in it, and it's super easy. And it's like, okay, well, like that's why you get into things like making unlimited money by like I'll just cast Wall of Iron and then fabricate it into 10,000 daggers and sell them all for 1 gold or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
So we're just past halfway marks. Should we get into Ted's important info that he passed along to us to announce?
We could do that.
Okay. So yes, Ted, as always, gathers all the info that we need to relate. And I don't know if it's the second one of the month or for whenever it is. Tonight is that night. And there's two things. There's the monthly giveaway winner, and then the fan game. So this month's giveaway, which Ted has shown off in several other videos, and he describes as a box full of minis that is well over $200 worth. Many of WizKids ones, which he has a ton of like the full sets and all that cool stuff. And also, there's a copy of Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft in there, and the winner of that is David Isaac Rack. And Ted has probably already contacted them to set up that and where to ship things and all that. And every month we do a giveaway of, I'm going to say at least $100. I mean, the default is yeah, it's at least $50 for the stuff, but it's usually
But
far
it's
more than
rarely
that.
that. Yeah, it's usually
Because we
over.
just have a ton of stuff that people send us and everything, and we get promo copies, and we just want to pass it along to everybody. And everybody that is on our newsletter sign up, or is on our newsletter list, and as well as our Patreon supporters, if I'm not mistaken, are Wink entered into that eligible for the giveaway. And
It's
we just
true.
draw a random name and every month and send that out anywhere. It's open to anybody anywhere on the planet Earth. So,
We always
no,
pray it's not Australia or some
yeah, but if it
other
was,
places are
that's just the
super
price you
expensive.
pay for giving stuff away. So
Uh,
yeah, as well as as along with getting on those giveaway lists in the newsletter, you get weekly news, views, and homebrews that we are known for once a week in your inbox, where we usually base them on the same topics that we talk about here, and might just offer tips or suggestions or make up content you drop right in your game, plot hooks, adventures, items, monsters, all that kind of stuff. There's also deals on RPG stuff and different news and things from around the Nerdarchy sphere. So that's cool. And you get $9.99 in store credit, so you can go get anything you want over there, and a free gift as well when you sign up. So there is zero
all
reason
kinds
not
of things
to do that.
over there.
Yeah. And the other piece of news is this month's fan game, which is pulled from the same pool of people. We draw 10 names and just contact them and however many people the DM wants to run for, it's the first that many people that get back to you. And if there's not, we'll just reach out to the community. So Ted's game is this month in June, and his game will be on Sunday, June 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And the pool of players are as follows: James Hansen, Ashley Parsons, Billy D. Hart III, Nick, Pedro Gijas Jr., Charlie Keller, Edward Stibick, Janelle Parton, Susie Begoyevich Simonson, and Shane Clark. So I'm sure Ted has already emailed those people to see if they would like to play in a game with Nerd Arcus Ted.
I always like it when I recognize some of the names.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Ashley Parsons is from World of
Varathis?
Vathis, I think.
Vathis, that's it.
With like Joho and all that kind of stuff. And
Starcaller Studios.
Yes, that's right. That's what
is the company. Vathis is the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do those every month with just those same pool people, and we usually, not usually, but often we'll just play test our Patreon rewards that we give our Patreon supporters.
Yeah, it's super chill. We grab 5 players or so and just run a game non-streamed.
Mm-hmm. I have a lot of fun doing those. Those have been really cool. That we just rotate off every month. So I think next month is me.
Yeah, it'll be you next month. It's always cool too. Like we get these cool opportunities where like the one game I had, no one was in the same country.
Yeah, that's neat.
So
that's very cool.
Always fun.
Mm-hmm.
So Winter Sky asked has anyone tried Tasha's Caustic Brew yet? Not yet. I haven't had a character that made sense for yet. I kind of want to do it with my Artificer, right? Mm-hmm. And I want the GM to let me use it, via my
Kangaroo.
Yeah, my Steel Defender.
Like just spew it out of its mouth.
Yeah, like Godzilla.
It's a spell, right?
Yeah, it's a spell. Yeah, I know what it does. It creates a stream of acid.
Yeah.
It does 2 die. I was just looking at it the other day. It does 2 die 4 points of damage on their turn, unless they take a turn to like scrape it off.
Oh, is it just a one time?
It's it lasts.
So it's like a bucket that you're just like.
Nah, it's a stream. Once you hit them with it, it then stays on them until they get it off.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like Witch Bolt or something.
But yeah, no, it's not like a never-ending.
Like they get the fire hose.
It's like it makes me think of Exodus, not Exodus, Exorcist.
Oh, I was thinking of
instead of puke just being puke, it's acid.
Yeah, I was thinking of UHF.
Oh yeah.
It's like you get the fire hose, and it was like and just sprayed the kids.
But all acid instead.
Yes. Melt. He would be melting the kids in that case, as one should with the little buggers. I'm just kidding. He doesn't advocate streams of acid at anyone.
Yeah, kids or otherwise.
So and speaking of that brew, that makes me think of another potion thing. Is one of my favorite encounters, which I run for the fan game at least once, is the Hag's Apprentice. Where the Hag's Apprentice is making a potion, and as the crux of that adventure, and if you get them angry, they'll tip over their caustic brew on you and have all kind of crazy effects. That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun to me. It also kind of like it, is just like illustrates a different way to use some of the game mechanics, and I think like we looked at that, and because I think it's like a random effect, right? That like if you get doused with the witch's brew that they're making, that we basically like ripped off spells to make cool effects that happen.
Yeah, that's a totally awesome DM thing to do. I believe the Crones and their Cravings has a similar thing of tipping over a pot as well from out of the box.
And also, it's kind of a cool thing when you tie it to like, this kind of reaction happens when something happens. Like,
yes,
I think did we do for that one like when the big bad hits like half hit points or something, they just dump it.
Yeah, because they're mad because you're hitting them while they're trying to work and stuff. It's like because they're a Cyclops, so they're not very and they're not very bright and all that. It's just like,
Patient.
give
They
me
don't
that
have a lot
now.
of patience.
Yeah, I think that's the same one that's wearing the dark mantle for the witch's hat, and the cloaker is actually whispering in its ear, the warlock
Yeah,
cloaker.
yeah. I didn't want to give it all away, but now
Oh,
that you
sorry.
already
Yeah, it
have,
was just like.
spoilers. If
Well,
you
all 11 people in here, now that you know, you must go out and run that for your friends.
the cloaker is the real villain.
Yeah, it's over at the DM's Guild. It's called the Hag's Apprentice, and it's pay what you want. So
Yeah,
go run that for your friends.
that was definitely a fun encounter to come up with.
Oh yeah, super fun.
Was that a monster? Was that a monster BFF we did
I think so.
video?
Yeah,
Yeah, most things get inspired from
that
videos
was
we've
like a
done.
triple BFF
Yeah, because we did the cloaker, the dark mantle,
and
and the
the Cyclops.
cyclops.
Yeah, those are fun series. We haven't done any of those in a while.
Yeah,
What do
we
you
like.
guys like? The people in the chat hang out. You know, I'm presuming they watch Naraki videos. What kind of videos do you guys like the best? I like the Monster BFF. Many fond memories of that. I like the Burr Hag and the Frost Drake is an awesome one.
Oh yeah,
That was a lot of fun. The Fomorian and the Roper, which is itself the basis of another encounter, the Piercer Pacer.
yeah. I think we did like 3 of the encounter ones over there.
Yeah, there's the Kobold Cavalry too with the I think it's Kobolds riding carry-on crawlers, if I'm not mistaken, because they could like go up and down the walls and everything. And they had like a little battle barge on the back of it and stuff.
I think they were actually mounted on a couple different things.
Oh, was
Like,
it?
yeah, like some of them
Oh
were
yeah, yeah.
mounted on the battle barge, and others are like individuals
That's right.
riding.
Yeah, yeah. That was when the encounter builder tool was kind of newish at D&D Beyond. So we were like, oh yeah, let's
What can
change
we
it all
pair
up. We were
up?
like, we could just scale it up. Now these are riding rust monsters, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, those are fun.
So my Curse of Strahd game this weekend, we defeated Strahd.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about that.
So I mean, like I think like the last 2 sessions were
Where'd you face
just
him?
in the crypt, in his parents'
Oh,
crypt,
oh wow. Where you go? Okay.
and the last 2 sessions was just us battling him, and one of the things Eugenio did was, uh, uh, I think one of the lair actions out of the coffins of his parents would slither the what are they called, the skins.
Oh, gross. Those things. Those are so repulsive to me.
Yeah, and like
The victims
if they
guy.
hit you twice, if they hit twice,
So gross.
then you get engulfed.
Ugh, those, yeah, those more than any other, because I did a whole post, and so I was like really reading all of them
Yeah.
like closely, and I was like, oh, these are just like there's all kind of nasty things in there, but to me personally, I was like, ugh, so gross.
Yeah, I got, and that was like the first time I got to use the mounted combo, um, steel defender ping pong.
What's that?
So mounted combat allows you to, when something attacks your mount, have it attack you instead,
Okay.
and then your steel defender can give something disadvantage
Mm.
when it makes its attack.
Oh, okay.
So as a reaction, right? So it was the first time that I specifically was able to pull that maneuver off. Where, yeah, like I've got there's been plenty of times to use the reaction for the steel defender and grant disadvantage, but it was the
Mm.
first time that I was able to like, okay, the DM wants to actually attack my mount, and I can go, no, you can't. You have to attack me instead, and do so at disadvantage. So,
Cool.
which
You
is
got to
which
do
has
your
been
cool
fun.
thing that you set out to do.
Yeah, yeah.
That had to
Yeah.
feel good. I mean, that's
Well, it took 10 levels or so.
yeah, but I mean, that's to me, that's all it takes sometimes when it's like I got to do the cool thing that I
No.
set out to. Say, yeah.
Well, actually, like that campaign was really good for the character that I built, in the sense that mana combat is hard for small characters because most of the time the mount isn't big enough. Because
You mean for medium characters?
no, for small characters, in the sense that one of the big advantages of being mounted is you get advantage to hit things that are smaller than your mount. Well, if your mount's medium,
Oh, is that one of the things for mounted combat?
Yeah, if you're
Ah,
riding a medium mount, that means you only get advantage on little things.
well,
Like
you
thing.
could ride a large creature.
Oh yeah, you could, but I'm using like my steel defender. It's medium.
I mean, in the sense of like it's easier to be mounted and get those advantages as a small creature because there's just more things that you can mount.
Yeah,
But I
but the
mean,
mounted stuff still has to be like a decent size.
I know I'm just saying, but you're even
Well, so what I'm saying is Curse of Strahd.
yeah
Most of the monsters you fight are all medium or smaller,
yeah
right? So normally for that build, like you wouldn't be able to get your advantage. But because I was an artificer,
yeah.
I would always cast enlarge to make my mount
Oh
large.
well, there you go.
So like that is one of the combos. Because otherwise, right, you can't really have a mount. Like if you're a medium creature, you couldn't use it as a mount, right? It'd
Yeah,
be the same size as you.
right.
Um, I guess you could do the same trick if you're a medium, but then you could only use it as a mount when you have the enlarge spell on it. But being able to
Oh,
do it
right.
all the time was kind of cool. So
Or I mean, you could just have a mount via role playing means and stuff like that.
that's true. I mean, but they don't last very long if you do that. Because I mean, if you look at your options in the monster, in the player's handbook or monster manual, it's like they're all one shottable.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all just contextual. I mean, you've played with me enough times. It's like if that was in my game, probably would be in as much danger as say your game because I just
Yeah,
yeah
in my game, they're definitely much more danger. And even
yeah
in
I just
like in this game they were playing in, like occasionally Hanyo would be like, all right, I'll take a swipe at the thing if it's there, which
mhm,
I think that makes sense. I
sure.
think it's fair game. Although in the final battle, my friggin' steel defender ended with more hit points than I had because I selfishly cast um, warding bond on one of the other players,
Hmm.
and that player had the sun sword,
Okay.
so they really got Strahd's attention. So I took like all of my damage from
uh,
warding
yeah, didn't
bond.
you die
I did die. Yeah, I was down, failed a death save, and then Strahd crushed my head
to make sure you were dead?
to make sure I was dead. And it made Matt Colville proud.
Yep. Was he brought back to life or anything?
Um, Two of us died in that battle, both me and the character that had the warding bond on. And the character with warding bond actually got back up in the fight with a dark gift. And we
Mm,
end it with my character was dead, but was offered a dark gift to come back. So
cool. Then it was just left on a cliffhanger for them, basically, whether they
yeah,
die. That's cool. Yeah, I think you and I are simpatico at least in that sense with like characters living and dying. It's like, yeah, it happens. It sucks, and sometimes it's a cool story. Like that sounds cool, and sometimes you just get fingered of death by Baba Saga
and
unceremoniously, and it's just like, yep.
and it's
You
over.
go up, yeah. I mean, you go up against heinous evil things, and sometimes they just point at you and
Yeah.
say die, and you die. So, to steer it back around to potions, are you a hoarder or a consumer?
When
You
it
know,
comes to that kind of stuff,
yeah,
I
and
feel like,
consumables in general. We'll say,
wow, it's funny because in that
except for
game,
scrolls, because that'll probably be a topic.
yeah, yeah, it's funny because in that game I had been hoarding a potion of lightning resistance for a long time, and before
That's
we,
pretty situational, though.
yeah, well, we're going up against Strahd. I was like, hey, does anybody want this to drink it before we go into the fight?
Mm.
Because I have absorb elements, and I'm like, well, that does basically this
Oh, yeah,
same thing,
sure.
only better, right? As long as you have
Although
a
you wouldn't have to
reaction,
waste the reaction, you could just chug it.
chug it and have it. Yeah.
Although, does it only last like a minute, or is it like
Probably.
10
We went
minutes?
into that fight stacked, and even
Oh,
still,
okay.
it was pretty tough. Like like I said, two of us died,
Yeah.
and quite a few of us were pretty wounded by the end.
I think
Uh,
even as a player, I would be disappointed if at least one player didn't die in a campaign
yeah, against
climax
Strahd.
battle, even if it was me. It's just like, man,
Yeah,
come on,
yeah.
somebody's got to
I
die.
mean, one of the wizard ended up with a staff of power and
Ooh,
depleted
nice.
all the charges in
Oh,
that
wow.
fight. You know, I mean, it's not
Oh,
hard.
you said depleted all the charges?
Yeah, I mean, it's only 20 charges, and you got spells that cost 5. So right, that's like 4 rounds. Like literally, it was a 10 round fight. So it took
So
like
it took
three
4
hours.
hours.
Yeah, it took 2 sessions.
Yeah, but I imagine, I mean, you guys are fun role players, so there's probably a lot of like cinematic stuff, talking.
There was a lot of that, and you
That
know,
sounds awesome. Oh man, I can just picture that like down in these creepy crypts that just amongst all these coffins and everything. Yeah, that sounds awesome. In the
yeah,
midst of all that grim and gritty gothic horror, there's a giant robot kangaroo.
yeah. Oh well, also I did. I also ended up because in one of the crypts there was a musket
Oh, cool.
with like 20 silver shot pellets that I
Uh-huh.
ended up with. Um, but I ended up using my infusion to make to use the repeating shot.
Ooh, nice. So you made it, yeah.
So
You're
basically,
spitting lead.
it's just a magic musket that doesn't run out of ammunition.
That's cool. Um, wow, I just totally lost my train of thought.
It
What
happens.
did I ask? It was like, what did I ask you? Oh, if you're a hoarder, yeah, yeah. I used to be like back from like video game days. You're like, I might need these potions later, and
Oh
you have a
yeah,
stuff. Now, and yeah, I don't really play like those kind of video games anymore. But in tabletop games, I just consume things like that. It was like, yeah,
oh
why
yeah.
not,
You were
man?
great in Cipher. Like I never had to worry about those ciphers sticking around.
Why would you? The same thing in D&D. It's like
Yeah.
if you're hurt, take a healing potion.
Well,
Or
that's it too.
cool.
In Cipher, technically, you're only supposed to have so many anyway.
Well, yeah, that
So
was the other thing too. It's just like, well, if we don't use them, but yeah, it's like, why wouldn't you use them, man? Just use that stuff.
yeah, which is kind of weird. Like that's one of the weird mechanics to Cipher
What?
that you can only have so many ciphers at a time.
Well, that I guess it's one of those things that for whatever reason, maybe it's just because it's like it's not D&D, so I'm not like it's not so permeated into my nerdy
Yeah,
DNA that like it's just the rule of the game. I don't question like why is that like but it doesn't make sense like logically. It's like I don't know. Just that's what the rule of the game is. So whatever. I can only I never even really occurred to me to question it because it's like that's just what it says.
yeah. Well, I do question, and I think especially coming from a D&D background, I'm used to having like a lot of magic items, and you know, a 5e's gotten. I think 5e's management of that is a bit better than previous editions, where like in third edition, it's like you had your whole body and
Slots.
everything was a slot, right? And
It's
you
like, oh,
know,
if you're really fine, you could find like the hand of doom, and then that could wear a ring for you and hang around your neck, and then you have
yeah.
two other rings and the cloak, and yeah.
Compared to now, they really I like it's just so simple. Either it requires attunement or it doesn't. If it doesn't require attunement, have as many as you like. If you can use them at the same time, you can. If you
Mm-hmm.
can't, you can't. Whatever makes sense. And you have 3 items you can attune to. It just
Mm-hmm.
makes it super simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless
You
you
can
are
wear robes over your plate armor or under him if that's how you picture it.
yeah. I mean, even I think it uses example in the book. It's like, well, technically you can wear 2 cloaks. It would be weird, but you can.
I
So
mean, it wouldn't be any weirder than anything else that happens in D&D.
it's
Like,
true.
if somebody's like, "Oh man, that's weird. You got two cloaks." Be like, "That's the weirdest thing you saw today."
So
For a day.
I was invited to play in another D&D game.
I missed your thing on Jacob. And I didn't see it on his YouTube channel.
Oh, it's not live. It's not a live
Oh,
thing.
okay.
I forgot that it was a pre-recorded thing, so it should go
Oh,
up Wednesday.
okay. So anyway,
Yeah.
so what were you saying?
So I was invited to play another game. One of the guys that just started playing D&D, a friend of my son's, he just like bought a
Mm.
bunch of the books, and and he set up a campaign on D&D Beyond. So we'll be playing that soon. All I know so far is it's going to take place in a town by a swamp, but we're not supposed to be from that town. We have
Okay.
to be for someplace else. So because when at first I was like, oh, a swamp, I'll be a lizard folk, and then my son's like, well, he said he didn't want us to be from that swamp. I'm
Is this
like,
kid
well,
uh is this kid like gotten into like D&D YouTubers and stuff like that?
I don't know if he watches them or not. I don't
Oh,
know.
I was gonna say, I bet you he's gonna run Cult of the Reptile God.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know what his plans are. I think he's just like homebrewing stuff.
Ah, well, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like he's only played a handful of games, so he's one's going to jump in and start running.
Oh
So
man, that's great. Really, only a
yeah,
couple of games and they went to DM. That's awesome.
yeah. Like I think I've run for him maybe 4 or 5 times, half a dozen
Cool.
tops.
Oh wow, so that's always cool too, because it's like that you kind of like influence them. So it's like they're probably gonna run their game at least somewhat similar to you, and it's like you kind of like mold people like that. You know,
Maybe, but like also like I feel like they probably have a lot of experience playing other video games and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I didn't mean in a
So
bad way. I'm just saying it's like
yeah, I just feel like there's a lot more places to get influences from than maybe when we first started.
sure. So what
Um,
kind of character are you gonna play?
well, at first I was like, well, maybe I'll play a lizard folk, and then my son's like, well, you can't be from. He doesn't want us to be from the same swamp.
Don't stereotype. Maybe they're
But I
from.
was like, well, what if I'm a swamp to swamp Sal's lizard folk? And I was like, what class should I play? And he's like, artificer. I'm like, I'm playing none of those right now. I don't want to do that.
What are you starting at first level?
I think we're going to start at first level. Yeah, I
Play
mean that would
wizard.
make sense with him just starting out.
Play wizard.
Do the lizard wizard.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, that could be like somebody that, or just somebody that would have an agenda to travel around and sell things too.
Charlatan.
Yeah, that's
Some kind of
that's what I would.
charlatan. I don't know.
Sure.
I'll
Yeah, but
figure out
any
something.
class you can play a fighter and do that. Just be a
Yeah. I was thinking
fighter,
about a cleric.
a rogue.
What if, like,
Rogue
maybe
would
like
be
a
fun.
cleric to a merchant god? And
Okay, that's cool.
and then I'd be like but maybe a charlatan aspect to it too. I don't know. Or a
Like a
trickery
trickery.
god. I don't know. I'm torn. But I'm thinking cleric, because, like, I feel like this way I can play, like, a support character, a
Good
snake
idea.
oil salesman.
Sure. What do
I,
you
I'm torn between that, Brian, and something, like, serious. But yeah.
what do you play in Steven's game? A Minotaur what?
Well, nothing yet, but I'm going to play a Spell Eater
Oh
Barbarian
yeah, Spell Eater Barbarian.
Minotaur, which is
Yeah.
like, so basically you created the subclass for the Spell Eater Barbarian, and we had made a Spell Eater Minotaur. So if I combine Minotaur and that subclass, that will absolutely give me the Spell Eater Minotaur, a version of anyway.
Nice.
I was surprised too when, like, well, and the game you're talking about is the next game we're playing
Yeah, yeah.
after the quest game is over. But I was surprised when Steve was like, "Well, what do you guys want to play?" and and he had shot down Goblin for Ted, because I think in his world, goblins are like corrupted halflings or something,
Uh-huh.
and they're all evil. Um, and I was like, "How about a Minotaur?" And he was like, "Sure." And I'm like, no goblins, but you can play a Minotaur.
Yeah, that threw me for a loop too, because I was like, he doesn't want like, the more exotic race. So I was like, okay, so I kind of had an idea in mind. But
Yeah.
then you were like, yeah, I'm playing Minotaur. I was like, oh man, we could. I was like, that kind of stuff's on the table. So I'm gonna play a Leonin sorcerer.
Yeah, I think he just changed, like, goblins
I
and
think,
orcs in his world work different.
yeah,
Like, they're not like races in other worlds. They're more
they're like
like,
Tolkien-esque, where they're like manufactured by evil magic.
yeah, or even maybe like gnolls are in
Yeah.
in the D&D cosmos. So,
Well, hello to you, Tim Lewis. You're great too.
yeah, Tim, absolutely. Yeah, so that should be fun. We got a
Mm-hmm.
couple games coming up. And then,
They
like,
always are.
this month, next week, less than a week from now, first in person game.
Oh wow. Jeez, I
Yeah.
haven't played an in-person game in years.
Since the concoction.
No, it hasn't been that long, but just my home
Oh,
group, and then everybody else.
well, Gen Con we played together
Yeah,
in
that's well,
person.
that was years ago.
It's still years ago. Gotta get out, son.
Yeah, man. I think come to think of
It's
it, the last
time.
in-person game I think I played was with Pruitt and the woman who is like the head of Encounter Roleplay now. I forget her name. And Susanna Grace, who's another streamer. We played Game of Thrones at PAX Unplugged.
Oh yeah,
That's pretty fun. And they'll be at, and at the end, speaking of them, they'll be on later this week at noontime live chat with you to talk about their first Kickstarter that launches Wednesday, I think.
yeah.
Yeah,
2 days from now.
yeah. And then tomorrow and Thursday and Friday, you'll be here at noon with guests as always. And tomorrow night at 8 p.m., we will be continuing our culinary fantasy space exploration quests on this channel. All that's on this channel. And then new videos on the main channel every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, as
Yeah,
always.
and Wednesday I'll be at Ted's in the basement filming in
Woo!
person.
Oh, man, that is so much cooler to
So
see.
weird now. It's so much. It's like weird and easier at the same time to converse because like doing the virtual recording. Well, it was okay, but like it's hard because like you're
Gotta put
trying not to.
pants on.
Yeah, well now we gotta put pants on, but you're trying to not talk over the other person and read the visual cues, which are a lot easier in person.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and they're just more fun. I like watching them. I mean, they're just, it was exciting to me, just again, as a Nerdarchy fan, to be like, oh, yeah, these are fun to see them sitting there talking.
good stuff, good stuff. 2021's turning it around. But we're just past the hour mark with that, and as Doug said, we will be back here tomorrow night. We'll also be back here tomorrow during the day and the rest of the week. So come hang out with us around the interwebs, and until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.